Welcome to For the Love of Books, Bees Books Edition, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hello, this is Pari.
And this is Jenny, and we're here to talk about
These books!
Yay!
we did it finally,
We did.
our last episode of December 2023.
Indeed, yes.
So, this theme, this time, this time, the theme that Bee gave us was feeling festive.
Feeling festive.
Feeling festive?
Yeah, we're still not quite sure what she was getting at.
No. It could be like sinister, it could be happy-go-lucky, it could be mystery.
Yes.
Yes. So, before we get to the books, could I ask you what makes you feel festive?
Oh, no, glitter.
Oh, I can see it on your face. So obviously you've just come in. Yes. Oh, glitter makes you festive.
Yeah, sparkly, like joy. Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Uh-huh.
I think
What
for
about you?
me, sweets, like
Oh.
desserts, but a very specific kind of sweet because I remember it from my childhood. So like I think Indian festive is different, and here hot chocolate. Because here it feels like that's the kind of, like when it gets darker, that's what I'm looking forward to. And that
Yep.
it just feels cozy and there's lights twinkling about and just the hot chocolate.
Oh,
So.
that does sound very festive and cosy.
Mm-hmm.
And on a day like this, when it's just horrible and miserable and wet and just not Christmassy or festive at all, that's kind of what you want.
Well, you say that. So, like, cozy is actually the theme that I chose, or sort of chose, in two very different directions.
Excellent.
So, my first book that I chose is called Bookworm, a memoir of childhood reading by Lucy Mangan. And your face does have a question mark on it because you're like, how is this feeling festive? I will explain. But my other thing is something that I mentioned to you and our co-worker outside. It's a murder mystery crime show set in Tasmania called Deadlock, which is also very festive. I'll tell you how. Like both these very different kinds of festive, and both of which are tied to coziness in some way or the other.
I'm liking the cover of your book.
Isn't it
You always
beautiful?
have beautiful covers. But looking at that just glancingly, kind of Halloween jumps out at me.
Oh, because of the black cat and the witch's hat.
Yeah, and there's a wee spider there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I'm interested. to
There's a
see.
mouse in a cape. So the mouse is joining in the Halloween as well.
A vampire mouse.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Yes. So yeah, that's my
very
two
nice.
offerings for the festive season.
So I have went down the kind of nice
Oh,
fluffy Christmas.
lovely.
This is not my usual kind of book, but
Yeah.
it is the Christmas Bookshop by Jennie Colgan.
Mhm.
Are we saying? And it's set in Edinburgh.
Oh.
At Christmas,
very
and it's
nice.
one of those books that just has all the ingredients that you want for a nice cozy book to read in one
lovely.
go with a big hot chocolate. Lovely. My second offering
Oh, you have another secret of
is
it.
a crime book, and it is
Oh.
Hercule Poirot's Christmas by
Excellent.
Agatha Christie.
Mhm.
So I went both ways. So
Yeah.
that's quite good. I'm interested. Why is Bookworm a festive?
So, this, very excited you ask. I knew that this is what I was going to be talking about. So I'm not a religious person, and Christmas doesn't have as big a significance to me as it does to a lot of people, including you, because we celebrated Christmas in India along with other festivals. But other festivals sort of had more of an impact on my childhood because like Ganpati and Diwali and things like that. So here, Christmas is a thing. Like obviously, the whole world is celebrating Christmas here. But what I look forward to are like these kind of made-up traditions or traditions that have sort of adopted. So hot chocolate being one, watching Christmas movies throughout the month of December being
Absolutely.
another, and one of the traditions that I discovered relatively recently comes from all the way from Iceland, which I don't know if you've heard of this fantastic tradition they have. So it's called the Christmas Book Flood.
Oh.
What a fantastic name
Oh.
to start off with. So they've been doing this for a few decades now. Iceland is apparently a super bookish country, and every Christmas Eve, the tradition is that they gift their friends and family books for Christmas Eve, and the tradition is that they sit on Christmas Eve and read the book either with like hot chocolate and get all cozy or like with a non-alcoholic ale, but like that's become their thing so much so that the most amount of books are sold at that time. And everybody I think in September, October, like in the autumn, they get a free book catalogue everybody in the whole country, and it's a thing that you just go and pour over and see what you're going to buy for each other. So I connected that to this. Well, this bookworm is basically, like it says, a memoir of childhood reading. So it's part memoir. She talks about all the books that she loved growing up, like reading, and it's also sort of part a history of children's literature. So she talks about much like older books. So through the books that she's read, but also through the books that she's encountered, she's going and talking about the history in the UK and the US as well. But most importantly, I think it's just a love letter to children's books. And it just makes me feel like I'm only about halfway through it, but it has so much joy and personality. And she's just, she talks about a lot of these books I've read as well, but a lot of them I haven't. But the way that she talks about them, I obviously have a big children's book sort of, I work with it. But I think even for those who don't, but who grew up maybe sharing books with their family, or as a grown-up shared books with like younger members of their family, it's just, she writes with so much warmth and, just, she loves books, you can tell. And it's also really funny. She has a lot of like snide asides and it's just fantastic. So I would fully recommend. So this is a book that, if not for these books, I would have like read on Christmas Eve as a part of the book flood. But I'm going to have to now look for another book to accompany my hot chocolate. But yes, that is my, so I am feeling festive. I started early, but yes, this is my offering.
It sounds lovely, actually. Like you should say, a book you would want to sit down and read, all cosy, and just, think of your own memories of reading.
Absolutely. And it's just like, she's such a personable narrator that it feels like a friend is, telling you about, because it's not written in a super stilted way, or like even when it's talking about the history of stuff, like it blends in pretty seamlessly. But especially when she's writing about the books she loves or hates or was completely traumatized by. Yeah, there's a few books that she was very traumatized by. One of which was Peter. I don't know if you know, there's this German picture book that I love because I like weird books. But she read it as like a 5-year-old. Her father got it for her and she still feels betrayed by this act, because it's all about, like, it's sort of a subversive book. So it's a series of short stories about children and how they get punished for things they do. But in a fun way. I'm not selling it very well. But yes, it's just, she just writes with so much love that I would just thoroughly recommend this to book. Yes.
Well, it kind of connects to my book, the Jenny Colgan one. This is about a lady who kind of she's not settled. She has a sister who's very settled, who lives in Edinburgh, but she's just a waitress, and she just kind of, not a waitress at all, she works in a shop, a haberdashery.
You just lied.
Yes, I did, sorry. And like in a big department store, which very near Christmas, basically everybody gets fired and it closes down. So
oh no.
Yes.
I was nodding like, oh, it's going to be very stressful during Christmas. Yes, I understand. Oh no, this took a turn. Okay.
So it's like a family owned big shop, and basically it closes down, so she has to find something else to do. Our mum and her sister have a wee conversation, and she ends up going and staying with her sister to help out with the kids, because her sister's very pregnant, and our sister is she's a lawyer and she's very kind of settled and everything, and one of her clients owns a bookshop, and basically he's been told the same kind of thing. The rents are rising, he's not going to be able to afford it, etc., so he needs to turn the shop round. So the sister kind of talks the main character into working in shop, bringing her non-waitressing skills to to kind of try and help. So the sister, who I've completely forgotten the name of now, which is terrible because I've literally just finished it.
No, I wouldn't have remembered Lucy's name had her name not been on the cover.
Carmen, her name is. Yes. She basically goes into this shop owned by an old man who, the shop is more about a kind of his family, because he lives above it, and he doesn't like selling books basically, but he wants to keep them all, but he has to sell them to make the money. Anyway, so she turns it into kind of more of a Christmassy store. And there's a bit in it when she decides to do some storytelling for kids, and she reads The Little Match Girl, I think it's called.
Yes.
forgetting, as you do, that the match girl dies at the end.
She would have traumatized Lucy for sure. Yes,
exactly. But it's actually a lovely bit in the story because the kids are all sitting there, and it's suddenly like, what do you mean she's
gone?
Because everything nowadays is a bit more, there's not that kind of an ending to many stories, if you know what I mean. And lovely, this little girl who's not spoken for quite some time asks a question, which is quite nice. Aww. She kind of speaks. There's also a fantastic bit in it when she decides just to park her nieces and nephews in front of the Muppets Christmas Carol movie, forgetting again that kids maybe don't. The kids have been taught differently. So they've got a nanny who's very much into yoga and this kind of thing. So they've never really seen Muppets before. And
so they have that is a very weird, because they play it straight.
Yes.
It's like the Muppets are just characters along with the humans.
And to be fair, it's one of my favourite Christmas movies. I will watch it every year. But it comes to the bit when we meet the ghost of Christmas past. Not the Christmas yet to come, who is quite scary in every version of the Christmas Carol, and they're terrified and come running in, and she has to go back in and kind of say, no, this actually has a happy ending as opposed to
how do they trust her though? She's already betrayed their trust. I don't think Lucy's got over her father's betrayal.
But it's just a lovely book. As I say, it's not my usual kind of thing, but as a Christmas book, just kind of cuddling up with it. There's love interests, and it's just got all the ingredients you want at Christmas.
Something easy.
Yes, you don't need to concentrate too much on it.
No, I agree.
But there's a lot in it if you want there to be. And it has a happy ending, which is good because I always like a happy ending.
Oh, that's good.
But yes, it's very much, and because it's set in Edinburgh as well. And Edinburgh is very much described in here as all the wee kind of side streets, and how some buildings have like basements that are above other things and things like that. It's very well.
I love it.
And because it's Christmas, obviously she's talking about all the Christmas lights in the shops and all that kind of stuff. And it made me feel, even though I was reading it on a kind of wet, rainy evening, it did make me feel kind of festive.
That's
so
good.
It was lovely. And there is a second one that's just come out, which
nice. I think a lot of the patrons, at least in our branch, would for sure love that
book.
She's
Absolutely.
a very popular writer here. And just the correct time. Well, thinking very differently. And so this is something that I've heard described coziness as. So like in winter, you're feeling, you like sort of it being cold outside and then like layering up to feel warm. So you want to feel cold and then so you know that it's cold outside. And on the other flip side of that, what makes me feel festive for the last couple of years is reading murder mysteries. So it's like, it's getting dark early, and it's a bit like, you don't like the dark as humans. You think of all murder ghosts, like ghosts in my case, like I think of all these things. So it's like, I almost find like reading murder mysteries especially in winter and in the lead up to Christmas and just even in January and things, is almost a way of layering yourself up, so you're like home safe and you're with the hot chocolate obviously and with layers and blankets, maybe a cat on your lap, and you're reading or watching stuff, people being killed and trying to figure out, and you're getting like completely engrossed in the mystery of it. So Deadlock is a show that I just happened upon like some time ago, and I added it to my watch list on Amazon Prime if you have it. And it's a show that I started watching last week and then binged over the weekend because it was very compelling. It's set in a small town in Tasmania, in Australia. And it's all like, I think they're all really popular Australian actors and things who are in it. I didn't know it. I think this is the first Australian show I've ever watched. And what I've realised is that Australian brains work in very strange ways because it's a bizarre, really weird, really funny show. So it's this small town, right? So there's like a faction of sort of working class, blue collar workers who are not always, but a little more conservative in their outlook towards life. Along with so now people from like Sydney have come, like this lesbian collective has like taken over this, not taken over this town, but they've come in as well. So it's about how these two very different kinds of things coexist with each other, and the show makes fun of both sides. Like it's like equal opportunity mockery all over. And there's like a sort of strand of sort of indigenous people as well, like Aboriginal sort of contemporary Aboriginal people who live there, and like there's this rich towns woman who's like secretly racist and but just puts money around everywhere. So all these different bits and pieces in the background of all these bodies, these people being killed, and it's largely men being killed. And it's only men being killed, actually. And it's just so funny. And it's the way that it's 8 episodes. So not that murder is funny and men being killed is funny, no. But it is a very funny show. The characters, I think some of the characters grow on you. There's one, especially in the beginning, who's pretty abrasive, and then stick with it. I promise it. Especially if you like murder mysteries, but also like a satire of murder mysteries almost. But having said that, the mystery itself is really compelling. I was guessing right till the end because I think that's what good mysteries do. They have red herrings that seem really likely, and then you're going in that direction and you're like, oh wait, no, this is actually not. There's an explanation for it. But it just keeps going on so well that until the last episode, the reveal is so satisfying because it only happens in the last half an hour or something, but it leads up to it, so you're like, oh maybe, but then you're distracted by something else. It's just a fantastic show, and it makes fun of everybody, which I love as well. And it's also just a serial killer there.
Oh, this sounds definitely up my street.
You love it, I think.
Yes. And leads on nicely to my last book. Which is Poirot's Christmas. So it's a murder mystery set at Christmas. So perfect. And I just wanted to read the first bit from Agatha Christie, who basically is dedicating it to James, who I think is her brother-in-law, who's basically said that her last few books, he wanted to see more blood and proper murder. So basically she said, "You complained that my murders were getting too refined. You yearned for a good violent murder with lots of blood. A murder where there was no doubt about it being murder. So this is your special story, written just for you."
Aww.
And it is for one of Agatha Christie's, who usually is quite...
Yeah, it's pretty sedate.
Yes, there is a lot of blood. But basically, Poirot's sitting just before Christmas with a chief inspector somewhere, having a nice cup of tea. And basically he gets a call to say that there's been a murder at a big posh house, and they go and investigate. But the good thing about it is that the first part of the book is more from the characters in the house. So it's this father, he's got a son who lives in the house with his wife. He's got another son who's a politician. He's got another son who's kind of went off around the world because he's a bit naughty. He had a daughter who moved to Spain and was disowned because she married somebody else. And basically he invites everybody to the house for Christmas. So all these personalities are coming to the house with all their baggage, basically. So there's a daughter belonging to his daughter who nobody's ever met before, and it's quite interesting to see how everybody reacts to everybody else. And then there's this murder, and it's a locked room murder, so you don't know how it's been done, and Agatha Christie does it very well.
She does do it very well.
Yes.
Because I've been listening to a couple of Miss Marple audiobooks as well, in the lead up, not specifically for this, just because, when it gets cold I want to listen to people being murdered. So, but in that as well, what I was talking to you about Deadlock, and it sounds like in this as well, there's so much potential, there's so many red herrings that you're convinced that, oh no, I'm so clever, I know it's this person, I know you're trying to drive our attention away, but it's this person. But actually it's this whole, I love that.
That's what this is like, you think at one point, it's the wife of the brother, and then you think, oh no, it's the daughter. And then you think, oh, that person's not actually who they say it is.
Yes.
And there's lots of clever bits in it about the butler, kind of, when somebody comes to the door, he gets mistaken that it's one of the other sons, and things like that. And you kind of go, oh, so right, okay, I know what's happening.
Exactly, and it's just throwaway references as well.
And at the end, you're like, really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and it
where
makes
did that come
perfect
from?
sense though. Like once you sort of know, and like it was the same with Deadlock, which is why I loved it. I thought it was so cleverly done, and it's such a fresh twist on like Agatha Christie, obviously classic. She still feels super contemporary
Yes.
because I've not like Miss Marple. Like I'd read I think a couple maybe like about 10 years ago, but I'm revisiting them now. And it still feels like, it could have been written now,
Absolutely.
about now. Like she's a contemporary writer, and her brother or whoever, friend James, would love Deadlock as well. There's lots of gross. So one of the, this is not a spoiler, I don't think. One of the things is the tongues are taken out of, so it is very gross and gory. So you see some tongues of, so spoiler, warning to people who are grossed out by tongues, I guess. But yeah, it is quite gory, but in a really fun way.
Excellent. I quite like the idea that sitting down watching, like binge watching as well at this time of year, whether it's a horrible tongue murder or whether it's something else is great. These the kind of longer nights you can just sit on the couch, as you say, with a cat to keep you warm. Binge watching something is great. I, however, binge read, and basically these long nights mean that I read quite a lot more than I usually do.
So you could participate in Iceland's annual tradition, the Yule Book Flood.
Absolutely. I think there's a few countries that kind of do that books are important at Christmas time. I have asked Santa myself for a couple of books.
Which I know about.
Yes.
I hope you get them. But yeah, I just love the idea of building your own tradition, sort of like the winter that's become like, I don't watch a lot of movies usually. Like, I mean, I love movies, but there's always usually a TV show going or a book or something else, life. But when it gets darker, I feel like there's less pressure to go out and enjoy like the weather or go out and do things. You can very guiltlessly just be a sofa person.
Absolutely.
Just read, just watch, just consume whatever comfort you can find, or tongue murders that you find. It's just like, I love people just making up their own traditions. So hopefully there's festive traditions aplenty all of this month.
I think everybody does have their own, strange and weird Christmas especially traditions. That on Christmas Day certain people open present like before Christmas on Christmas Eve and all that kind of stuff. But I like the other traditions as well, as you say, the kind of non-Christmassy traditions that you do at Christmas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. But you're right about, like, I was watching this movie again on Prime because, it's now I've become a watcher of stuff. But there was this family, it's called Your Christmas or Mine Part 2. There was a Part 1 last year. And this English family goes over to Austria for Christmas. And there, apparently, they have Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve. Like, that's their tradition. And this family is completely horrified. It's like, that's not right. This is like, Christmas dinner can't be had on Christmas Eve. This is sacrilegious. It's just like, it's funny the way, like, how you're both open to and like completely flabbergasted by traditions that are different from your own.
Because we've got an American now in the family. And they don't really do turkey on Christmas Day. That's more of a Thanksgiving thing. On Christmas Day they do ham. Ham. It's very strange. But then you think a couple of hundred years ago we really did goose on Christmas rather than turkey. So
true. Well, we did like bougie brownies and stuffed cookies last Christmas.
Excellent.
And like, so we took that to Jack, like my partner's family's house. They loved it, we loved it. Happy Christmas all around. So, new tradition, maybe. Question mark.
That should be my baby's next year's. So
it's so like, I think different ways of feeling festive, and they don't necessarily need to mirror each other because I think a few weeks ago I told one of our co-workers that, just this time of year, Christmas just puts me in the mood for some murder mystery reading, not like me murdering people. And he looked at me quite strange. He's like, does it? So it's just, I think, different
Everybody's
things.
got something different.
Everyone has a bit of a quirk in their brain. They say Australians for sure.
Exactly. And I'm sure B has her own strange traditions herself.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, I can't wait to see Bee all in her festive glory this time around. So yeah, keep an eye out on our social media pages to see Bee and our books. But I think otherwise Bee will be pretty happy with what we've offered so far. So what about our first episode of the new year? What's it going to be?
It is New Year, New You.
Is there a question mark after that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yes. But usually in the libraries in the new year we have a display that is New Year, New You. So I'll be interested to see what that means to you.
Maybe this time there should be a New Year, New You, or just a New Year, Old You.
Oh yeah.
Don't know. We'll find out.
We will find out.
But thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.